Your actions got you here. Your irresponsibilities has got you here. Nothing no one else did to you. Stop blaming slavery and segregation for what's happening now. It is you. It's not them. It's not this person. It is you standing in the need of prayer. That's what I'm trying to represent, and that's what I am representing. But they're missing that. A lot of the African-American community, some are understanding, but a lot miss it.
Okay, I want to come back to that. When we come back, I want to ask you, is that intentional? Because there's the Jesse Jacksons or the Al Sharptons of the world that I think that's intentional. That man, I know Jesse Al Sharpton. I know him. I've been with him. That man knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. He knows what he's doing. I'm going to get your opinion when we come back.
Absolutely. All you civil rights leaders, all you jokers out there telling us, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to change. The book of Deuteronomy, I said again, chapter 2, verse 3, God said, we have toiled this mountain long enough to go northeast. It's time for us to change. Change as black people. And I'm not talking about that Obama change, because we still waiting for that change. That's a whole nother video, but we still waiting on that. That silly joker ain't said nothing about none of this. It's time for us to change. You civil rights leaders, it's time for you to hear from God and get a revelation. We need to change our sense of direction. Jesus said the blind can't lead the blind because they both gonna fall in the ditch. Matthew 15:15, don't get it twisted. Stop burning down your communities and where you live because you mad at the police. Clean up your own neighborhoods and then they'll clean up theirs. Starts with you first.
That is powerful and not a message. I guess you haven't been called by CNN.
No.
That is a powerful message that needs to be heard. You talk about the civil rights leaders, and I think you even said you call them what I call them so-called civil rights leaders. They're not. Who are they? Do they know?
I mean, now you have to understand times have changed. I understand, again, like I said, racism is there.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not like it was back then. You're using a method that worked then. You understand? And what I say now to the youth and to the world, to the nation, our leaders today, you cannot be an effective leader reliving your past. You cannot. You cannot be an effective leader of no kind, of no background, of whatever race, reliving your past. Because what you're going to do is rejuvenate and recycle hate, pain, anger into an innocent generation. You understand? What you went through, you're recycling into an innocent generation that has nothing to do with what you experienced. And I'm not talking about history. You understand? History is one thing. Recycling anger into God's children is another. That's where I come in. And that's what I'm doing. I am hitting the brakes on these leaders who are recycling anger, pain, into an innocent generation who experience what you did not.
Can I ask you a question? Because I really truly believe, first of all, I grew up in Washington State in the Pacific Northwest. I think when I was growing up, I think there might have been 4 black people. And they may have come in, I don't know, for a show or something. I have no idea. I remember the first time I saw an African American. And my father said to me, don't stare. But I'd never seen anybody. And so we didn't have this, where I was growing up, we didn't have this strife. There wasn't the strife that they had in the South and everything else growing up. So maybe I just come from a different place. But I think America has moved on from the 1960s, the 1970s. Racism still exists. When I went down to Birmingham, Alabama, and I did a show down there, I was at a theater, and the general manager said to me, I said, look, we start on time, and they said, well, not down here. And I said, why not? And they said, well, we're on colored standard time. And everybody just laughed, and my friends and everybody, we were there, and I was sitting here, and I was like, did I just hear that? I mean, what the hell is that?
Right.
And I realized, I mean, I expected, Archie Bunker to come back out from behind the curtain there. So it exists. but we're not the kind of people that we were in Martin Luther King's time. We made great advancements.
Right.
And now we're being dragged
back.
You just said these guys believe, maybe they don't believe it. They believe we're the same people that we were when Martin Luther King was alive.
Right.
We've grown.
Right. We have. And that's the sad part, because that's what's being pushed. Unfortunately, that's what Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and a lot of these activists, Najee Ali and a lot of these guys on the West Coast, that's what they're pushing. These white folks in the police are the KKK. Okay, time out. Hold on. Wait a minute. Because you have to understand, with a spiritual mind, I'm filled with God's Spirit, so don't feed me that nonsense. You understand? I understand racism still exists. For instance, when all these riots broke out in Ferguson, they burnt down their own church, the church Michael Brown's father attended. And they had the audacity to blame it on the KKK. Did the KKK burn down the AutoZone too? Did they burn down the McDonald's too? Did they burn down the police cars too? So you guys burnt down all the police cars and you blame the church on the KKK because you knew it was wrong. Because they knew it was wrong. KKK did that. This, I don't know. You burned down all this now. Why did you do that? Why? You see, it's the examination of a person's self. And I'm just holding up that mirror. You know, and what I'm seeing is...
So let me ask you this. Because the KKK exists. There are real racists. There are spooky people. So when we come back, let me take a quick break and then come back and just ask you, so how do we straddle this and say, look, we as reasonable people need to say KKK and racist cops, enough. But the good cops, the good people.
Yeah, not all cops are bad.
Not all cops are bad. Some are bad. They're people. Not. Some are bad, some are good.
No, absolutely.
And what we're doing is just planting these seeds of hatred. So how do we break through and stop this nonsense of race wars that I think people are intentionally seeding? We'll be back in just a second. So you have received death threats.
Yes.
I mean, I know what my Facebook is like. I can't imagine what yours is like. Nobody wants to even look at the facts of the case. They're rioting. Well, the facts of the case are completely upside down. How are we going to solve this? And forget about Ferguson. How are we going to solve the hate problem that is being sown by everyone, it seems?
It's almost they're taking sides, and we shouldn't, Glenn. Honestly, we shouldn't, because it's what's being taught. You know, how can a 15-year-old know that the police and white folks are bad? Why? Who teaches that child that? You know, so it's what's being taught into our communities. So my job, honestly, and what I'm going to continue to do is, God created us all equal. Regardless of what you're seeing out here, regardless of what the media is pushing, we have all been created equal. And again, I say, I do not hate my race. I'm just telling us to take responsibility. Don't hold up a sign to the police department saying Black Lives Matter when we've been killing each other all year. Okay, either put the sign down or reflect it towards your own community. You understand? Because that's where the crime rate is. That's where we're dying. It's in our own community. Now all of a sudden Michael Brown has become the black male who has died. It's 500,000 that we killed as an African-American community. We need to come to the level of responsibility and accountability where we live. This is not a police problem. This is not a white problem. This is a black problem that we need to address. Can the same intensity you're bringing to the police department and to the nation with your